A look at obituaries brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg, 256-245-4361. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Funeral service for Doug Wesson, age 67, of Childersburg, will be today at 1 p.m. from the Vincent Revival Center. Pastor Jason Allums officiating. Mr. Wesson was retired from the Childersburg Police Department with 42 years of service. He was a member of the Vincent Revival Center and police chief in Childersburg for approximately 2 years. Online condolences at curtissonsonfunerals.com. Mr. Wesson died at his residence on January the 12th. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Ella Faye Ferguson McClenny, age 87, is Saturday at noon from Curtis & Son North, with the Reverend John Mann officiating. The station will be Saturday from 10:30 until noon at the North Chapel. Burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. Ms. McClenny was a member of the Rockford United Methodist Church, and she was also a former Rockford City councilwoman. Online memorials at curtissonsonfh.com. Arrangements are under the direction of Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, Sylacauga. Mr. James Cooper died at his residence on January the 14th. Curtis & Son Funeral Home will announce the arrangements. Mr. Samuel Lee of Sylacauga died at his residence on January the 14th. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, announcing. Mr. Joe Guy of Childersburg died at his residence on January 14th. Curtis & Son Funeral Home announcing. Mr. Todd Hall of Sylacauga died in Tallapoosa County on Thursday. Curtis & Son Funeral Home announcing. And Mr. Roland Mellon died at Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga on January the 14th. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, announcing. Vivian Ratchford, age 86, of Sylacauga, died this morning at Sylacauga Health and Rehab. Funeral arrangements to be announced by Radley Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga. Funeral service for Mr. John Franklin Thrower, age 68, is today at 10 a.m. from the chapel of Radley Funeral Home in Alexander City. Reverend Ken Griffith officiating. Burial in the Bethlehem New Salem Cemetery. Mr. Thrower died Wednesday, January 13th at his residence. Memorial messages may be sent to the family at radleyfuneralhome.com. Radley Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mr. Charles E. Brock, age 65, is today at 1 p.m. from Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Sylacauga, with burial in the Rising Star Cemetery, also of Sylacauga. Community Funeral Home directing that service. Mr. Brock died January the 11th at UAB in Birmingham. Funeral service for Mrs. Anna Ruth Lamberth, age 31, of Alexander City, is Saturday at First Baptist Church in Alexander City. The station is 11 a.m. until 1:30 at the church. A graveside service officiated by Dr. Gerald Hallmark will be at 2 p.m. from the Alexander City Cemetery. In lieu of flowers, the family would like donations be made to Anna's name to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Memorial messages may be sent to the family at radleyfuneralhome.com. Radley Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Bobby Lou Busby, age 87, formerly of Goodwater, Saturday at 11 a.m. from the chapel of Radley Funeral Home. Reverends Wayne Henderson and Jamie Williams officiating. Burial in the Greenview Cemetery. The family receiving friends Saturday morning, 9:30 till 10:30 at the funeral home. Mrs. Busby died January 13th at Goodwater Healthcare Center. She was a member of the Kellyton Baptist Church. Radley Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Jack Bernard Mann, age 94, formerly of Goodwater, is today at 1 o'clock from Radley Funeral Home in Alexander City. Reverend Jesse Shaddix officiating. Burial in the Greenview Cemetery. The family receiving friends this morning, 11 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. at Radley Funeral Home. Mr. Mann died January the 12th. He was a member of the Goodwater United Methodist Church and Radley Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mr. Howard E. McCluskey of Childersburg will be today at 11 a.m. from Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, with the Reverend Ronnie Forbes officiating. Burial in the Green Hill Cemetery. Online condolences at CourteousandSonFunerals.com. Courteous and Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, directing that service. Mrs. Nellie R. Cribbs, age 74. Funeral arrangements will be announced for Ms. Cribbs by Community Funeral Home. Funeral service for Cornell Scales, age 79. It's 1 o'clock Saturday at Greater Ebenezer Baptist Church with the Reverend A.G. McKinney officiating. Interment in the Pine Grove Cemetery. The body will lie in state at the church 1 hour prior to the service. Online condolences at terrysmortuary.com. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary directing. Memorial service for Deldria Denise Wilson, age 39, is 2 o'clock Saturday at Peace Missionary Baptist Church with the Reverend Vantoni Welch, the pastor officiating. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary directing. Funeral service for Donald Ray D. Ray Twyman, age 25, is 3 o'clock Saturday at Kelly Springs Baptist Church with the Reverend L.L. Jacobs, the pastor, and Pastor George Adams officiating. Interment in the Pine Hill Memorial Park. The body will lie in state at the church 1 hour prior to the service. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary directing. And funeral service for the Reverend Bobby Joe Hunter, age 61, is Saturday at 1 o'clock from Miracle Missionary Baptist Church in Alexander City. Burial in the Rockford City Cemetery. Visitation today, 1 until 8 o'clock, with a family hour from 5 until 7, all at Community Funeral Home in Sylacauga. The body will lie in state 2 hours prior to the service at Miracle Missionary Baptist Church in Alexander City. Reverend Hunter died January the 11th at his residence, Community Funeral Home, Sylacauga, directing the service. That's a look at obituaries brought to you by Courteous and Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. 256-245-4361. That's Courteous and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.